Towards the reduction of gender inequalities, the example of Burkina Faso. Among the major socio-cultural inequalities, those linked to gender are particularly persistent all over the world. How can we quantify them? Well, it depends on whether we're looking at the north or the south of the globe. In developed countries, these inequalities are measured using economic indicators such as pay rates or women's access to key positions. In the global south, we tend to look at access to education and economic resources, as well as opportunities to enter the labour market. Let's take the example of Burkina Faso, a developing country ranked 121st out of 144 by a recent study by the World Economic Forum, measuring the relative gap between men and women in 4 areas: health, education, economy, and politics. In this country, traditional conservative social structures are very present and security crises numerous. These factors tend to accentuate situations of vulnerabilities, including those of women. In such a context, can the achievement of gender equality be accelerated? Regardless of the context, the key issue for women's socio-economic success remains work, which generates income and is a step towards empowerment. However, in Burkina Faso, one must consider external factors, the burden of domestic tasks, religious prohibitions, social taboos, and above all, the motherhood-related constraints, which are all obstacles to women's access to employment. Faced with these social imperatives, women must therefore work twice as hard to meet both their work obligations and complete domestic tasks. And despite this triple assignment, reproductive role, productive role, and social role, women do not benefit from a valued social status. Carrying out an income-generating activity does not guarantee economic autonomy for women either. Not only is the partial withholding of income by the husband customary in Burkina Faso, but it is also common for the product of women's labour to be entirely devoted to household expenses, drastically reducing their saving capacity. And without savings, it's difficult to plan and develop personal or professional projects. What are the living conditions for women in Burkina Faso? There are differences between women living in rural and urban areas, between generations, but also between educated women and those who have not been to school. City women, often more educated, are more able to claim their rights because they're better informed and can thus break free from certain traditional norms. Despite changes observed in access to education, particularly in urban areas, and timid progress in terms of economic empowerment, social and cultural obstacles persist. And the place devoted to women in decision-making is the perfect illustration, whether in the public or private sphere. In the public sphere, despite a law on the gender quota, which provides for at least 30% of women in political decision-making bodies, they remain poorly represented in the National Assembly and in municipal councils. In 2021, for example, there were barely 15% of women in the Burkinabè Parliament out of the 127 elected representatives. In the private sphere, women face the same problem. Although gainful employment contributes to increasing the consideration of their relatives towards them, their decision-making power remains weak within the family, the neighbourhood, and the community. In the end, in Burkina Faso, as in many West African countries, we're witnessing a timid change in the condition of women. But if it's combined with respect for family values and traditions, the economic empowerment of these women should be able to come to fruition.